The morning began with a relentless jackhammer tearing through the quiet, a sound so jarring it felt like it was drilling straight into my skull. I jolted awake, my heart pounding, as the VY Brattians shook my modest home on Elmwood Lane. My favorite Muga-chipped blue ceramic thing I'd picked up at a flea market rattled off the kitchen counter and shattered into a dozen pieces across the tile floor. I cursed under my breath, rubbing sleep from my eyes, and shuffled toward the mess. But the real shock came when I stepped outside, barefoot and still in my boxers, to see what the hell was happening. There was a gaping wound in my backyard, a massive hole being carved out by a crew of sweaty, sunburned workers. Dirt flew in clumps, piling up along the edge of my property, and the air smelled of diesel and damp earth. Standing there, overseeing the chaos like some deranged monarch, was my neighbor, Marjorie. She wore a floppy straw hat that cast a shadow over her sharp features and sipped a lemonade through a striped straw, her lips pursed in that smug, self-satisfied way I'd come to despise. She didn't even look at me at first, just waved a hand as if shooing a fly. "Morning, Ethan," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "No need to fuss. It's just a little landscaping project." "Little," I choked out, my voice hoarse from sleep and disbelief. The hole was at least 10 feet wide, straddling the property lineino. Scratch that. It was well onto my land. Workers hauled concrete blocks and pipes, their boots trampling the grass I'd spent months nurturing. "Marjorie, this is my property. What the hell are you doing?" She finally turned to me, her hazel eyes narrowing as if I were the unreasonable one. "Oh, Ethan, don't be so dramatic. It's a water feature. A fountain, really. It'll elevate the whole street's aesthetic. You should thank my property values and all that." She took another sip of her lemonade, the ice clinking against the glass. "Thank you." I stepped closer, my bare feet sinking into the cool dirt. "You're digging up my yard without asking. Are you insane?" She sighed, theatrical and long-suffering, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "The neighborhood association approved it. It's all above board. Besides, you weren't using that patch anyway, just weeds and that hideous shed of yours." I clenched my fists, my VY sound tunneling. The hideous shed was where I kept my tools and the old motorcycle I'd been restoring for years, a project that kept me sane after long shifts at the garage. "I'm not in your damn association," I snapped. "You have no jurisdiction here." Her smile tightened, a flicker of irritation breaking through her composure. "Technicalities," she muttered, then turned back to the workers. "Keep going, gentlemen. We're on a schedule." I stood there, dumbfounded, as the jackhammer roared back to life. Every rational part of me screamed to call a lawyer, the cops, someone. But Marjorie wasn't just a nosy neighbor, she was a force of nature, a tyrant who'd ruled this cul-de-sac with an iron grip for years. She was the president of a neighborhood association, a self-appointed dictator who wielded her title like a scepter. And right now, she thought she'd outmaneuvered me. I took a deep breath, forcing my rage down, and did the one thing she didn't expect. I smiled. If Marjorie wanted a war, she'd get one. But I wasn't going to play her game. I'd rewrite the rules. It all started 6 months ago when I moved into 17 Elmwood Lane. I'd been drawn by the quiet streets, the oak trees lining the sidewalks, and a house I could actually afford after years of renting cramped apartments. The realtor had glossed over the neighbors, muttering something about community spirit, but I should have known better. The first red flag came the day I moved in. I was unloading boxes from my truck when Marjorie appeared, her heels clicking on the pavement, a thick binder tucked under her arm. She introduced herself with a smile so brittle it could have cracked glass, and handed me the Neighborhood Association's rulebook, 92 pages of it. "Welcome to Elmwood," she'd said, her tone syrupy sweet. "I'm sure you'll fit right in once you're VY-EU the guidelines." I flipped through it confused. Thanks, but I didn't sign up for any association." Her laugh was sharp, dismissive. "Oh, Ethan, it's not about signing up. It's about keeping things CIVY list. We all follow the rules here." She tapped the binder with a manicured nail and left me standing there, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. The harassment started small. Notes taped to my door about my grass being a quarter-inch too long. Complaints about my truck's oil spots on the driveway spots that didn't exist. Once, she even griped about the wind chimes on my porch being too dissonant. I ignored her at first, figuring she'd tire herself out. Big mistake. Ignoring Marjorie was like ignoring a rattlesnake. You didn't hear the warning until it was too late. Then came the gnome incident. I found a pair of tacky lawn gnomes at a garage sale, grinning little bastards with pointy hats, and planted them by my mailbox just to mess with her. The next day, I got an official violation notice claiming they violated the association's aesthetic standards. It had no legal weight, but the sheer audacity of it lit a fire in me. That's when I realized this wasn't just petty neighbor drama, this was personal. And now, with her fountain tearing up my yard, she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. I stormed back inside, grabbed my phone, and called the city. 2 hours later, an inspector named Carl showed up, a wiry guy with a clipboard and a no-nonsense squint. He took one look at the construction site and whistled low. "Got a permit for this?" he asked Marjorie. She fluttered her lashes, all innocence. "Of course. The association approved it weeks ago." Carl turned to me. "And you're fine with this?" I pointed at the survey stakes I dug out of my garage, an old set from when I bought the place. "Does it look like I'm fine? That's my land she's ruining." Carl's expression hardened. "Ma'am, you can't build on someone else's property without consent. Permit or not, this ain't legal." Marjorie's smile faltered. "But it's already in progress. You can't just undo it," Carl said flatly. "Or the city will, and you'll foot the bill." For the first time, I saw a crack in her armorial, panic flashing across her face. But she recovered fast, tossing her head. "We'll see about that, Ethan. You're making a mistake." I grinned, leaning closer. "No, Marjorie, you are." She huffed off, leaving the workers to pack up their tools. I watched the hole sit there, a muddy scar on my lawn, and felt a flicker of satisfaction. But I knew this wasn't over. Marjorie didn't lose gracefully. She regrouped. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. I kept expecting her to retaliate, maybe a fake fine or another passive-aggressive no, but nothing came. Then, one morning, I stepped outside to find my driveway blocked by her gleaming white SUV, parked at an angle that made it impossible to get my truck out. I knocked on her door, my patience fraying. She answered in a silk robe, her hair in curlers, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. "Oh, Ethan, is something wrong?" "Your car," I said, pointing. "Move it." "Oh, that," she cooed. "A friend parked there last night. I'll move it after my tea. You know I like a slow morning." It was a taunt, pure and simple. She wanted me to snap. Instead, I nodded and walked away. 15 minutes later, a tow truck rolled up. Marjorie burst out of her house, robe flapping, as the driver hooked up her SUV. "What are you doing?" she screeched. "Helping you out," I said, sipping my coffee. "You said soon. I'm just speeding things up." "You can't," she started, but the truck was already pulling away. Turns out, blocking a driveway is a city violation, and the tow was free. She stood there, fuming, as I waved her off. That should have been the end of it, but Marjorie doubled down. The next day, I got a notice claiming my mailbox painted a perfectly normal gray violated the association's color code. I laughed, crumpled it up, and drove to the hardware store. An hour later, my mailbox glowed neon orange, a blinding eyesore that could have guided ships in a fog. Marjorie saw it the next morning and froze, her mouth flapping like a landed fish. She stormed inside, and within an hour, I saw her on the phone, gesturing wildly. Probably calling the city again. Good luck with that. Then my trash cans vanished. I checked my security camera and caught her sneaking around at 2 a.m., rolling them off like a petty thief. She didn't just take them, she dumped the contents across my lawn. Coffee grounds, banana peels, and old takeout containers littered the grass. I could have called the city, but that felt too tame. Instead, I waited until midnight, gathered the mess, and spread it across her yard dartfully, like a compost Jackson Pollock. The next morning, she screamed so loud I heard it through my double-paned windows. She marched over, eyes blazing. "You did this," she hissed. I leaned on my porch railing, coffee in hand. "Prove it." She couldn't, of course. No cameras, no witnesses. She stomped off, and I knew the real battle was just beginning. A week later, the city sent her an official letter. Remove the illegal fountain or face fines. I delivered it myself, savoring the way her face crumpled as she read it. "This isn't over," she spat, slamming the door. She wasn't kidding. The next morning, I woke to the sound of water. She'd filled the unfinished hole with a HOA stagnant, mosquito-breeding puddle now sat on my land. I snapped photos and called Carl again. He showed up, shook his head, and issued her citation on the spot. "Lady, you're digging yourself deeper," he said, almost laughing. That's when I took matters into my own hands. Every night, I drained a little water from the puddle buckets hauled to my shed, slow and silent. She didn't notice at first, blaming the sun, then the workers. When she finally caught on, she confronted me by the empty hole. "You drained it," she accused. I shrugged. Got proof. She didn't. But I wasn't done. The next day, while she was at one of her precious association meetings, I rented a truck and filled the hole with dirt piles of rich, black soil that I turned into a garden. Flowers, a bird bath, the works. When she got home, she let out a scream that echoed down the street. She banged on my door, practically frothing. "You'll pay for this," she yelled. "Go ahead," I said. "Sue me. See how far you get." She didn't sue, not yet. Instead, she tried the legal route through the association. 2 suits showed up at my door, claiming I'd damaged community aesthetics by filling in her fountain. I showed them the city's ruling and watched them slink away, defeated. Her next move was pettier. She put a hold on my mail, pretending it was an association order. I fixed it at the post office, locking her out of that trick. Then she called inspectors over my unauthorized garden. Carl just laughed and gave me a thumbs up. Her final gambit was a petition to evict me from the neighborhood. My neighbor, Sam, brought it over, cackling. "She's lost it," he said. I didn't bother fighting it directly. Instead, I printed my own petition, a vote of no confidence in Marjorie as president. I left copies at the corner store, and within days, nearly everyone had signed. The association called an emergency meeting, and the room exploded with years of pent-up frustration. Marjorie was ousted, her reign shattered. She didn't go quietly. She tried rallying support, ranting about chaos and ruin, but no one listened. Her petty stabs continued, notes, glares, complaints, but they were toothless. Then one day, I caught her staring at my garden, her face a mask of defeat. "You ruined everything," she whispered. "You did that yourself," I replied. A week later, her house was for sale. She left in a huff, claiming she'd upgraded, but we all knew she'd been run out. The association dissolved soon after, and Elmwood Lane breathed free. That night, I sat on my porch with a beer, Sam beside me. "Quiet now," he said. "Quiet's good." I agreed, and we toasted to the silence. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.